You are told to be gentle, aren't you? To be kind, empathetic, soft-spoken, emotionally available, and accommodating. You are encouraged to shed the rough edges of traditional masculinity, to cultivate a tender heart, to prioritize harmony and compromise. You believe that by embodying this gentleness, by being the antithesis of the harsh, dominant archetype, you will finally unlock the deepest affection and unwavering devotion from women. You strive to be the safe harbor, the comforting presence, the man who would never wound, believing this is the ultimate path to being truly loved and respected. But what if this pervasive cultural instruction, this very pursuit of gentleness, is a profound and fundamental misdirection? What if the qualities you painstakingly cultivate, your softness, your boundless empathy, your aversion to confrontation, are not what truly commands her deepest, most primal respect and desire? What if, as the profoundly insightful, yet often unsettling philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer would grimly argue, most women, at an unconscious, visceral level, secretly despise the very gentleness you are taught to embody? This is not a call for cruelty or aggression. It is a stark, uncomfortable unveiling of a fundamental biological and psychological dynamic that, once understood, can shatter your romantic illusions and leave you with a haunting clarity about the true nature of attraction and respect. It is an invitation to strip away the comforting veneer of modern ideals and confront a brutal truth that, according to Schopenhauer, lies at the heart of human relationships. Until you grasp this inherent disparity in the very fabric of desire, you will remain a captive of your own illusion, perpetually seeking a validation that eludes you, and forever bewildered by why your most earnest efforts yield only polite dismissal, not passionate devotion. Schopenhauer's will to life, the primal engine of disdain. To comprehend this unsettling revelation, we must first revisit the core of Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy, the will to life. As we explored before, for Schopenhauer, the universe is governed by a blind, irrational, ceaseless, and insatiable striving force, the will to life, or more specifically in this context, the will to reproduction. 1. This will is an unconscious, primordial urge that underlies all phenomena, driving everything from the growth of a plant to the deepest human instincts. Its ultimate singular purpose is its own perpetuation, the endless continuation of the species. And here is where Schopenhauer's piercing gaze zeroes in on the phenomenon of attraction, and specifically the female response to male gentleness. The will to life, in its ruthless drive for optimal propagation, does not value qualities that are detrimental to the survival and flourishing of the species. It does not prioritize individual comfort or subjective emotional pleasantries. Instead, it subtly, unconsciously, pushes towards pairings that promise the most robust, resilient, and well-supported offspring. You believe you are being valued for your kindness, your emotional openness, your soft heart. Schopenhauer would contend that this is a dangerous misinterpretation of the will's true agenda. He would argue that while kindness might be consciously appreciated for its utility in daily interactions, it is rarely the primal spark that ignites deep respect and powerful, instinctual attraction in a woman. Why? Because from the cold, calculating perspective of the species, will, unchecked gentleness, the absence of firmness, the lack of a formidable will, can be perceived as weakness, vulnerability, and a potential detriment to the security and protection of future generations. The will, being blind and amoral, seeks strength, competence, and a certain unyielding quality that ensures survival. What survival advantage does boundless gentleness offer in a world that is inherently brutal and competitive? What protection can a soft will provide against the harsh realities of existence? Schopenhauer would assert that the will, through the unconscious instincts of the feminine, seeks a partner who embodies the capacity for decisive action, for assertion, for the imposition of will upon the world, for the safeguarding of resources qualities that often stand in stark contrast to unmitigated gentleness. This fundamental misalignment is the source of the secret disdain. The feminine imperative. Strength as the primal signal. The second profound truth lies in understanding what Schopenhauer identified as the feminine imperative, driven by the will to life. While men are manipulated by romantic illusions into a singular focus on an idealized woman, women, in Schopenhauer's view, are the will's primary, pragmatic instruments for reproduction and the preservation of the species. Her unconscious attraction is fundamentally oriented towards securing the most advantageous conditions for offspring. This means she is unconsciously attuned to signals of strength, competence, decisiveness, and an unshakable will in a man. Consider the historical and biological realities. The male role in propagation, beyond the initial act, has always been tied to providing security and resources. In a world where survival was a constant struggle, where threats were omnipresent, qualities like a gentle spirit, boundless empathy, or emotional fragility were not paramount for securing the future. What was valued, at a primal level, was the capacity for protection, for provision, for imposing order on chaos, for leading. A man who embodied these qualities, even if he possessed a gentle heart beneath them, signaled a formidable will, a robust capacity for action. A gentleman, particularly one who lacks underlying strength, who struggles to assert himself, who avoids all conflict, who prioritizes others' comfort over his own truth, subtly transmits a signal of vulnerability to the primordial feminine instinct. This isn't a conscious thought process, it's an unconscious, almost biological assessment. This kind of gentleness, unanchored by a firm will, can be perceived as a lack of backbone, an inability to defend, a porosity to external pressures. And from the perspective of the species, such a man is not the optimal choice for the continuity and thriving of the bloodline. What respect can be cultivated when the very qualities you present, your softness, your boundless empathy, your aversion to conflict, are unconsciously interpreted as a deficit in the vital attributes needed for protection and leadership? What primal attraction can exist for a man who is perceived as lacking the fundamental strength required to navigate a harsh world? The secret disdain arises not from ill will, but from an unconscious assessment by the species, will, which bypasses conscious preference to prioritize the raw elements of survival and propagation. The weakness of the unbound will, why gentleness without strength is despised. The deepest reason why unmitigated gentleness often elicits secret disdain is that it can signify a weakness of the will, a lack of internal force, a porosity of boundaries, an inability to assert oneself upon the world. A truly gentle man, in the appealing sense, possesses a profound inner strength that allows him to choose gentleness. 2. His kindness is a deliberate choice, not an inability to be firm. His empathy is rooted in a deep understanding of self, not a desperate need for external validation. His soft-spoken nature hides a fierce resolve. This is the king archetype who can be benevolent precisely because he is sovereign and capable of wielding immense power if necessary. 3. He is the warrior who lays down his sword, not because he is incapable of fighting, but because he chooses peace from a position of strength. But when gentleness is born of fear, fear of conflict, fear of disapproval, fear of asserting one's own truth, it is not strength. It is weakness disguised. It is the nice guy who is agreeable because he lacks the backbone to say no, whose empathy is a desperate plea for connection, whose softness masks a terror of rejection. This kind of gentleness does not inspire respect. It subtly triggers contempt because it signals an inner void, a profound lack of self-possession. It indicates a man who is a wingless creature, crawling in circles, perpetually conforming to external pressures, unable to generate his own upward thrust. This man cannot hold boundaries. He cannot provide direction. He cannot make difficult decisions. He cannot confront uncomfortable truths. His kindness becomes passive aggression. His empathy becomes enmeshment. His selflessness becomes self-sacrifice to the point of resentment. And in the harsh, unforgiving calculus of the species' will, a man who cannot stand firm, who cannot assert his own will, is seen not as a gentle partner, but as a liability. What respect can you truly command if your benevolence is born of weakness? If your empathy is a form of self-abandonment? If your kindness masks a fear of honest confrontation? Where is the genuine attraction for a man whose kindness comes at the cost of his own core, his own will? This kind of gentleness is not admired. It is secretly despised because it signals a fatal lack of the very qualities the species will unconsciously seeks for its continuation. The disillusionment of the ideal. Why most men can't give it. If genuine strength, underlying conscious gentleness is what is respected, why are most men tragically incapable of cultivating it? The answer lies in the profound disillusionment of the ideal and the pervasive conditioning that actively strips men of the very qualities that cultivate a formidable will. Firstly, men are taught to confuse gentleness with weakness. The cultural narrative often presents a false dichotomy. Either you are a harsh, dominant, toxic male, or you are a soft, submissive gentleman. There is rarely an archetype presented that integrates fierce strength with compassionate will. This binary thinking prevents men from developing a holistic self. The fear of being perceived as toxic pushes them towards an extreme of gentleness that sacrifices their inherent masculine power, leaving them unbalanced and often deeply resentful. Secondly, the erosion of clear masculine purpose and the rise of the unexamined life contribute significantly. When a man lacks a strong, self-authored purpose, when he is adrift without a clear direction, his will becomes diffused. He becomes reactive rather than proactive, seeking external validation rather than cultivating inner strength. Without a strong internal compass, his gentleness becomes a passive receptivity to others' demands, rather than a deliberate choice rooted in strength. He builds a shrine to confusion, attempting to construct a respectable identity from borrowed virtues. Thirdly, the pervasive addiction to external validation is a powerful inhibitor. The relentless pursuit of approval from women, from peers, from society actively undermines the development of a sovereign will. To be truly strong requires the willingness to stand alone, to risk disapproval, to assert uncomfortable truths. Most men are too deeply conditioned to seek positive reinforcement, too terrified of social ostracization to embody this challenging authenticity. Their gentleness becomes a desperate plea for acceptance, a means of avoiding the terrifying specter of rejection or hatred. Fourthly, there is a systemic lack of authentic male mentorship and initiatory experiences. Historically, older men would guide younger men through difficult passages, challenging them, testing their limits, and teaching them how to integrate strength with responsibility, firmness with wisdom. 4. Modern society largely lacks these rites of passage. Young men are left to navigate the complexities of masculinity in isolation, often internalizing fragmented or contradictory messages. Without guidance, many default to a superficial gentleness, believing it is the path to acceptance, never understanding the deeper, unspoken requirements for profound respect. What genuine strength can be cultivated if the very concept of power is demonized, if purpose is ambiguous, and if external validation is the ultimate prize? What true will can emerge when a man is perpetually performing for an unseen audience, rather than forging his own path? These chains ensure that most men, despite their best intentions, remain caught in a loop, offering a gentleness that, in its lack of foundational strength, inadvertently triggers subtle disdain. The path to respected gentleness, reclaiming your sovereign will. So, how does a man break free from this insidious cycle? How does he cultivate a gentleness that commands respect rather than secret disdain? The answer lies in a radical redefinition of gentleness itself, integrating it with unyielding strength and sovereign will. It begins with radical self-possession and the cultivation of a formidable will. This is the non-negotiable foundation. You must first know yourself, define your values, and commit to your own purpose, independent of others' opinions. This means cultivating internal discipline, conquering your own impulses, and making deliberate choices rooted in your deepest convictions. Your will must be strong enough to withstand external pressure, to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, even if it creates discomfort. This is the king ruling his inner kingdom, not passively letting it be governed by external forces. Next, embrace the discomfort of being the anchor. True strength lies in stability amidst chaos. When emotions run high, when challenges arise, cultivate the capacity for calm, rational response, rather than reactive gentleness or passive agreement. This doesn't mean being unfeeling. It means feeling deeply, yet choosing your actions from a place of grounded presence. This teaches others that you are a reliable force, a true anchor, and that your internal state cannot be easily destabilized. This is what truly inspires respect, for it signals reliable strength. Then, practice conscious confrontation and unyielding integrity. A truly gentle man is not afraid to speak truth, to hold boundaries, or to engage in necessary conflict, not out of aggression, but out of integrity and respect for reality. This means recognizing that avoiding friction at all costs often leads to resentment and a lack of authentic connection. Your gentleness should be a choice born of strength, not a default born of fear. When you confront with calm and integrity, you signal that your kindness is deliberate, not a sign of a weak will. Finally, seek out mentorship and authentic brotherhood. You cannot forge this kind of integrated strength in isolation. Connect with other men who are committed to embodying integrity, purpose, and self-mastery. Learn from those who exemplify strength and compassion. Engage in challenging experiences that test your limits and forge your character. This shared journey, this mutual accountability, provides the necessary external support to cultivate the inner resilience required to embody true sovereign presence. This is how you shed the image of the wingless creature and learn to genuinely soar. The path to embodying a gentleness that commands profound respect, rather than secret disdain, is not easy. It demands immense courage, relentless self-awareness, and a fierce commitment to cultivating an unshakable inner strength and sovereign will. Most men, tragically, will continue to chase a superficial gentleness, remaining enslaved by the fear of disapproval and never truly understanding why their earnest efforts yield only polite dismissal. Not passionate respect, but a select few will hear the call. A few will feel the deep, gnawing dissatisfaction with being overlooked, with being valued for compliance rather than conviction. A few will dare to question, to challenge, to look within, and forge the unbreakable will that underpins true gentleness. Will you continue to sacrifice your authentic power, your inner strength, for a fleeting illusion of acceptance? Will you remain a pawn in a game where your earnest efforts are secretly despised, leaving you perpetually unfulfilled? Or will you have the immense courage to look upon Schopenhauer's chilling revelation with clear eyes, to dismantle the comforting myths that bind you, to step into the terrifying, yet infinitely rewarding work of truly knowing yourself, owning yourself, and embodying your full, integrated, sovereign power? Power that allows you to choose gentleness from a place of unyielding strength, and thereby attract not mere liking, but a profound, unshakable respect, and a love that truly sees you. She can't respect a gentleness born of weakness. Reclaim your sovereign will.